Drill Sergeant Zor was having one of those days. It wasn't even midday, and he already regretted rolling out of his pod that morning. By all 8 of Silax's moons, he muttered, his tendrils curling in irritation. What cosmic crime did I commit to deserve this? He stood there, his gelatinous frame rippling as he surveyed the ragtag group of alien cadets gathered before him. Amid the usual array of recruits from across the galaxy, a new addition caught his attention. Humans, the Deathworlders. Just the thought made Zor's membrane tense uncomfortably. All right, you clueless clusters of carbon and plasma, he barked, his voice boosted by the translator pinned to his chest-like region. Welcome to the Galactic Federation's elite training program. Prepare yourselves for the most excruciating week of your pathetic lives. A chorus of groans rose from the assembled recruits, punctuated by a few enthusiastic cheers that Zor pretended not to hear. He'd have them questioning their life choices soon enough. For starters, let's go with something easy. 50 laps around the compound. Go! As the recruits took off, Zor noticed a cluster of humans exchanging smirks. Was that laughter? Oh no, that would not fly. Is something funny, Earth Dwellers? He growled, oozing over to the group. One of them, a tall woman with unruly red hair and an infuriatingly cocky grin, stepped forward. Not at all, Sergeant, she said, barely hiding her amusement. We were just curious. Is 50 laps your idea of a warm-up before the warm-up? Zor's eye stalks contracted. Come again. The human, still grinning, clarified, well, where we're from, 50 laps is usually what we do before breakfast. Real warm-ups are closer to 100. Zor's entire body pulsed with indignation. Is that a fact? He hissed. Fine. If that's what you want, then by all means 100 laps it is. The humans took off without hesitation, practically sprinting past the bewildered alien cadets. Watching them disappear into the distance, Zor felt a pang of doubt. 2 hours later, Zor was seriously considering a career in hospitality. Perhaps a cafe on some quiet, tranquil world far away from Federation boot camps. Anything had to be better than this. Not only had the humans finished their 100 laps, but they had promptly launched into a series of contests involving push-ups, pull-ups, and burpees. A concept Zor was horrified to discover had nothing to do with expelling gas. All right, you overgrown primates, he grumbled, approaching the humans, who barely looked winded. Let's see how you handle our obstacle course. It's broken the best warriors the galaxy has to offer. You have 1 hour. The redhead from earlier, Johnson, according to her name patch, raised a hand, and Zor's last thread of patience thinned. Sergeant, is that the whole thing? Johnson asked, casting a skeptical look over the obstacle course. Zix Snorp's eye stalk twisted toward her, perplexed. The whole of what? The obstacle course? Johnson clarified, gesturing at the sprawling maze of barriers, towering walls, and simulated hazards stretching across the training grounds. It looks quaint. The human cadets snickered, while the other alien trainees stared on, a mix of dread and admiration in their expressions. Zix felt a tension building in his head, wondering if his gelatinous form could even experience headaches. At this rate, he was bound to find out. Quaint, he echoed, his tone sharp enough to make a few recruits flinch. This facility is the Galactic Federation's pinnacle of training technology. It's crafted to push you past your limits. Johnson nodded solemnly, her face alight with exaggerated seriousness. Oh, absolutely, Sergeant. It's a masterpiece. We'll definitely try to, struggle accordingly. As the humans lined up at the starting point, Zix braced himself, a nagging feeling that he was about to witness something truly unsettling. Ready, set, go, he shouted, watching in mounting disbelief. What followed was pure chaos, but of a strangely controlled variety. The humans moved through the course like they were born to do it, scaling walls, leaping across pits, and darting through laser grids with a grace that defied logic. Zix's eyes widened as Johnson launched herself over a series of electrified barriers with a laugh, flipping midair as though it was nothing. Meanwhile, Rodriguez, a human with a solid build, swung across ropes, using them as makeshift catapults to propel himself from one platform to the next. This is just like that obstacle show from home, another human yelled with gleeful nostalgia, flipping off a low wall with ease. Zix's translator struggled to keep up with their rapid chatter. This is easier than that mud marathon, one exclaimed, breezing past. I've had tougher workouts at my kid's playground, shouted another, dodging a swinging hammer. Is this the training wheels version? When do we start the real course? The humans' laughter and casual banter cut through the air, leaving Zix speechless as they stormed through the impossible course in just 15 minutes. At the finish line, the alien cadets, who hadn't even started, gazed at the humans with open-mouthed awe. Johnson jogged back up to Zix, barely breaking a sweat. So, Sarge, she said, clearly amused, what's next? That was a good little warm-up. We're ready for the real deal. Zix's eye stalk sagged, defeated. That was the real deal, he muttered. Johnson stood there, looking sheepish, though not sheepish enough. Well, that was enlightening. Really got the adrenaline going, you know. Zix Snorp did not know. He was fairly certain his species didn't even produce adrenaline. What he did have, however, was an intense desire to retreat into a puddle and slip away from this torment. Ahem, right, he said, mustering up what remained of his composure. Since you've all shown such unique skills, let's proceed to the next training phase. Follow me to the simulation chambers. As Zix led the group toward a large dome-shaped building, he caught snippets of the humans' chatter behind him. Hey, Johnson, you think they'll let us handle real weapons soon? These laser tag things are fun and all, but I'm ready for some real firepower. Easy, Rodriguez. Let's not give the poor sergeant a panic attack. You think aliens like him even have something like a heart? No clue. We could always dissect one to find out. Their laughter echoed through the hall, sending a ripple of dread through Zix. He made a mental note to update his will at the first opportunity. The simulation chamber was the Galactic Federation's pride, a massive, dome-shaped room capable of producing ultra-realistic holographic landscapes and scenarios meant to stretch cadets to their limits, physically and mentally. As he detailed the parameters of the upcoming exercise, Zix noticed the humans looking distinctly unimpressed. This cutting-edge facility can recreate any battlefield environment in the known galaxy, he said, straightening up. You'll encounter trials that will challenge your bravery, intellect, and ability to operate as a cohesive unit. The humans exchanged amused glances, barely concealing their smirks. Whatever you say, Sarge, Rodriguez replied, spinning his training weapon with ease. Bring it on. Zix's eye stalks narrowed. Fine, let's start with something worthy of your confidence. Computer, initiate scenario X-370N. The Siege of Zlax. The chamber hummed, the blank walls melting into a sprawling alien city in ruins, sounds of distant explosions and laser fire filling the air. Holographic enemies flickered into view, their forms shifting with a menacing precision. Your objective, Zix declared, is to infiltrate enemy lines, locate the hidden base, and neutralize the leader. This scenario has a 98% failure rate among our top cadets. You have 1 hour. Retreating to the observation deck, Zix allowed himself a flicker of hope. Surely, this challenge would humble these unshakable humans. He could not have been more wrong. The next 30 minutes unfolded as a masterpiece of organized chaos. The humans swept through the battlefield like a seamless unit, using a mix of rapid hand signals, code phrases, and strange pop culture references that Zix couldn't begin to comprehend. Johnson, hostiles at 3 o'clock. Let's go with a Leroy Jenkins. Copy that, Leroy Jenkins. Zix watched in stunned silence as Johnson barreled into a group of holographic foes, creating a distraction that allowed her team to flank and dismantle the threat with an unsettling level of skill. Rodriguez, let's see some of that parkour magic. Go full Spider-Man on these buildings. You got it, boss. Friendly neighborhood space marine coming up, Rodriguez shouted back. The muscular human then scaled the side of a simulated skyscraper using only his hands and what seemed like pure determination. Zix Snorp made a mental note to double-check the chamber's gravity settings. Something had to be malfunctioning. As the simulation continued, Zix found himself wavering between astonishment and sheer panic. The humans weren't just accomplishing the mission, they were completely redefining the rules of engagement. At one point, when holographic enemies had the team pinned down behind a shattered wall, instead of falling back or calling for support, the humans started singing. When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. The bizarre sound of what Zix could only assume was some kind of human battle chant confused the AI controlling the holographic enemies just long enough for the humans to launch a perfectly timed counterattack, leaving Zix utterly bewildered. As the dust settled and the last holographic foe vanished, Zix glanced at the mission timer in stunned disbelief. 28 minutes and 17 seconds. They had just completed a scenario meant to take hours, faster than most species finished lunch. The humans gathered in the center of the chamber, exchanging high fives and congratulations. Johnson looked up at him, her grin visible even from the observation deck. Hey Sarge, got anything tougher? This was fun, but we're just getting warmed up. Zix felt a wave of despair wash over him. This was shaping up to be an impossibly long day. As the hours wore on, Zix found himself cycling through the stages of grief at an alarming rate, now trapped somewhere between bargaining and resignation. The humans tore through every trial he presented. Endurance tests, they treated them like warm-ups. Strategic simulations, solved in record time with tactics that left experienced military minds in disbelief. Even the psychological evaluation chamber, designed to probe the deepest fears of each recruit, was met with disturbing enthusiasm. Is this like that escape room from Dave's bachelor party? One human had asked, grinning as they entered the psych chamber. I called dibs on solving the creepy alien puzzle. Now, as the sun sank on what should have been merely the first day of a week-long training, Zix found himself confronting a nightmare come true. The humans had completed every single challenge, test, and trial that was supposed to take 7 grueling days, and they still wanted more. Listen up, you bipedal disasters, Zix growled, addressing the humans who were now relaxing in the mess hall. Some of the humans were arm wrestling for fun, while another tried to balance a spoon on his nose. I hope you're pleased with yourselves, Zix Snorp said, his voice tinged with weary exasperation. You've managed to shatter every record we've got, and quite possibly my will to continue existing. Johnson, who had seemingly appointed herself the unofficial leader of the human recruits, grinned up at him. Ah, come on, Sarge, don't be like that. We're having a great time. This beats our usual training back on Earth by miles. Zix's eye stalks twitched in shock. Enjoyable? This program is designed to push the boundaries of sentient species across the galaxy. It's not supposed to be, Rodriguez chimed in, his mouth full of whatever the cafeteria served. Seriously? This is awesome. Back home, they'd have us digging holes just to fill them back in, all for fun. Here, we get to use actual alien tech. A chorus of agreement spread through the humans, accompanied by laughter and the occasional burp. An act Zix had observed seemed to have a bonding effect among them. I don't understand, Zix said, his form seeming to sag slightly. You're from a death world. Your planet should have made you wild, unpredictable, not this. Johnson's grin softened. Sarge, you've got it backward. We're not good at this in spite of Earth. We're good at it because of Earth. Zix's obvious confusion prompted her to continue. See, our planet has tried to knock us out at every turn since we evolved. We've got microscopic killers, huge predators, natural disasters that can wipe out entire cities, and the weather alone is enough to drive anyone mad. We didn't just survive it, we learned to enjoy the challenge. You know why? She paused, letting the tension build, and Zix leaned in, despite himself. Because we made it fun, Johnson said with a shrug. We turn our struggles into games, our challenges into sports. Heck, we even watch shows just to see people beat crazy obstacles. Rodriguez nodded, clearly excited. Yeah, have you ever seen American Ninja Warrior? Zix's translator struggled to process American Ninja Warrior, but he grasped the general idea. So, let me understand this, he said slowly, trying to absorb it all of this, the physical strength, the strategy, your ability to adapt. It's all just a game to you? The humans exchanged a glance, then broke out into laughter. Well, when you say it like that, it sounds kind of messed up, Johnson admitted, wiping a tear from her eye. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Life's too short to be serious all the time, you know? Zix didn't know. In fact, he felt more perplexed now than he had this morning. But as he looked at the humans, still buzzing with energy after a day that would have exhausted most other species, something shifted in his gelatinous core. I see, he said, straightening himself to his full, if modest, height. In that case, it seems I have no choice but to adjust. The humans leaned in, their curiosity fully sparked. Adapt how, Sarge? Johnson asked, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Zix Snorp felt a thrill he hadn't experienced in years, something remarkably close to excitement. Well, he replied, if you're so set on treating this training as a game, then it's only fair we raise the stakes. Computer, the AI chirped to life. Override access to restricted training protocols. Authorization Zor, PG-9. The humans exchanged excited glances as Zix's tendrils moved deftly over a holographic display. Rodriguez looked up, intrigued. What are you doing, Sarge? Zix's eye stalks shifted toward them, and if he could smirk, he would have. You wanted a real challenge, didn't you? Well, brace yourselves. It's about to get interesting. The room began to morph, reshaping itself into a surreal, alien landscape that defied description, and Zix felt an electric thrill ripple through his gelatinous form. For the first time since these relentless humans had shown up, he felt as if he might actually be enjoying himself. 3 hours later, Zix Snorp found himself gaping in sheer amazement, or the gelatinous equivalent, as the humans stumbled out of the final chamber of the Omega Protocol. This was a series of grueling tests so advanced and classified that hardly anyone in the Galactic Federation even knew it existed. The humans emerged, splattered in a chaotic spectrum of alien substances, sporting minor injuries but grinning from ear to ear. Holy obstacles, Rodriguez gasped, dropping onto the floor. That was next-level intense. Johnson nodded, wringing a substance that was still slightly smoking out of her hair. I haven't had that much of a blast since that time we ended up in that interdimensional rift during basic training. Zix's eye stalks jerked in surprise. Excuse me, you ended up where? Long story, Johnson waved it off. Involved way too much paperwork and a stern lecture from some suits. But, Sarge, that was incredible. Why have you been holding out on us with all this? Zor drifted closer, his form rippling with a blend of astonishment and newfound respect. The good stuff, as you call it, is strictly for the most elite operatives in the Federation. No cadet has ever attempted the Omega Protocol, much less completed it. The humans exchanged glances, their grins only widening. So what you're saying, Rodriguez said slowly, is we just made history? Zix's eye stalks lowered in resignation. Yes, I suppose you have. A triumphant cheer erupted from the humans, echoing off the walls of the training facility. Zor watched as they celebrated, exchanging high fives and engaging in what seemed to be ritualistic chest bumping, feeling a strange sensation welling up within him. Was it pride, admiration, indigestion? It was impossible to say. All right, that's enough, he grumbled, though his tone was noticeably lacking its usual edge. You may have completed the program, but don't think this means you're done. We still have 6 days left, and I intend to make every single second count. Johnson stepped forward, her eyes alight with a mix of exhaustion and fierce excitement. Bring it on, Sarge. We're ready for anything you can dish out. As Zix Snorp looked at the battered but determined group before him, he felt a surprising certainty. These strange, resilient, and utterly perplexing beings from a death world hadn't just survived everything he'd thrown at them, they'd thrived. For the first time since their arrival, Zix felt a flicker of optimism. Maybe, just maybe, these humans were precisely what the Galactic Federation needed. Very well, he said, lifting himself to his full height. In that case, let's go beyond the standard protocols. How would you all feel about helping me design some new challenges? The human's eyes sparkled with that familiar glint of chaotic creativity. Rodriguez grinned, cracking his knuckles. Oh, Sarge, you don't even know what you're asking for. Excitedly, the humans launched into brainstorming, their voices overlapping as ideas poured out in a noisy mix of enthusiasm and creativity. Zix felt something unexpected. He realized he was laughing. News of the humans' impact spread quickly through the training facility. Cadets from other species gathered, whispering in awe about the Deathworlders who'd flipped the entire program on its head. Instructors convened, urgently revising their training plans and wondering if they should start incorporating human-proofing measures. And at the center of it all stood Zix Snorp and his band of human troublemakers, collaborating to invent training scenarios that would challenge even the toughest Galactic Federation operatives. Okay, hear me out, Johnson said, gesturing animatedly as she explained her latest concept. We combine the zero-gravity combat simulator with the psychic resistance chamber, but we add in random gravity changes and a swarm of those mind-reading critters from Xenon 7. Zix's eye stalks twitched, trying to process this suggestion. That sounds chaotic. Exactly, Rodriguez chimed in, leaning in eagerly. And, of course, we make the floor lava. Everyone, humans and aliens alike, turned to look at him, momentarily silent. What? He shrugged. It's a classic for a reason. Zix found himself nodding along, drawn in by the humans' infectious enthusiasm. Actually, that's not a terrible idea. We could repurpose the magma simulation from the extreme environment module. As the brainstorming continued, with each idea more outrageous than the last, Zix marveled at the transformation overtaking the facility. The rigid, traditional atmosphere that had reigned for so long was shifting, becoming lively and unpredictable. And it wasn't just the humans who were benefiting. Everyone was embracing this newfound energy. Cadets from other species were beginning to adopt some of the human spirit, approaching each challenge with fresh creativity and even a touch of humor. Zix Snorp watched a group of Ashen cadets, usually bound by strict protocol, attempting one of the humans' parkour moves. They ended up in a knot of tentacles and startled chirps, but laughter filled the air as they untangled themselves and prepared to try again. You know, Zix Snorp mused aloud, we might actually be onto something here. Johnson overheard and sidled up with a grin. What's that, Sarge? Finally admitting that us humans aren't so bad. Zix's gelatinous form rippled slightly in what might have been a chuckle. Don't get ahead of yourself, cadet. I'm only admitting that your unconventional problem-solving approach may have some value. High praise, Johnson laughed. So what's next? More impossible challenges? Maybe a race against a black hole or arm wrestling a supernova? Actually, Zix Snorp replied, his tone growing serious, I was thinking it might be time for a real test of your skills. The humans perked up, clearly intrigued. What kind of test? Rodriguez asked, already excited. Zix's eye stalks scanned and the Eager group. How would you feel about a joint training exercise with some of our veteran operatives? The humans exchanged grins, excitement sparking between them. You mean, like a scrimmage? Johnson asked. Us rookies against the pros? Exactly, Zix Snorp nodded. It would give you a chance to demonstrate everything you've learned, and maybe even teach our seasoned operatives a thing or two. Their enthusiastic response was all he needed. As Zix said about organizing the exercise, he couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed in such a short time. At first, he had seen the humans as a challenge, maybe even a liability. Now, watching their excitement and focus, he realized they might be the solution to challenges he hadn't even considered. The Galactic Federation had always taken pride in its adaptability and acceptance of diversity from all reaches of the galaxy. But it had taken these unconventional Deathworlders to show them what real adaptability looked like. As the training facility buzzed with anticipation for the upcoming exercise, Zix Snorp felt a new optimism. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was certain that, with these humans around, things were about to become very interesting. And for the first time in his long career, Zix was genuinely looking forward to it. The day of the joint training exercise began bright and early, or as bright as it ever got on a space station orbiting a binary star system. Zix Snorp arrived at the main simulation chamber to find the place already buzzing with activity. On one side, a team of veteran Galactic Federation operatives was methodically running through pre-mission checks. They moved with the precision of professionals, their actions practiced and coordinated. On the opposite side, are they dancing? Zix Snorp asked, his eye stalks twitching in confusion as he watched the human cadets engaged in some sort of energetic, full-body warm-up. Eye of the Tiger, Sarge, Rodriguez called out, catching Zix's baffled look. It's tradition. Can't head into a mission without it. As if on cue, the humans broke into song, harmonizing in a spirited chorus. It's the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rival. Zix noticed some of the veteran operatives sneaking glances at the humans, amusement and mild disdain evident in their expressions. He could almost read their thoughts. These are the Deathworlders we've been hearing about? They don't seem very intimidating. He allowed himself a slight gelatinous smirk. They were in for a revelation. All right, everyone, he called, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustic system. Gather round for the mission briefing. As both teams assembled, Zix observed the stark contrast between them. The veterans, a diverse group representing some of the most respected species in the Federation, stood at attention, perfectly composed. Meanwhile, the humans were still bobbing slightly to the beat of their warm-up song, grinning widely. Johnson was even in the middle of trying to show a three-armed trillion cadet the mechanics of a fist bump. Zix cleared his throat, or the equivalent sound a gelatinous being could make, and began the briefing. Today's exercise simulates a high-stakes diplomatic mission gone wrong. Your objective is to extract a VIP from a hostile environment while navigating complex political and physical obstacles. The team that successfully retrieves the VIP and reaches the extraction point will be the winner. He paused, letting the details sink in. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering why we're pairing seasoned operatives against a group of cadets. He continued, noting a few smug expressions among the veterans. Think of this as a test of adaptability and creative thinking. In the field, you never know what challenges will arise, or who you may end up working alongside. Zix's eye stalks took in both teams. The simulation starts in 5 minutes. Use this time to strategize and get ready. Remember, this is a competition, but it's also an opportunity to learn from each other. Good luck to you all. As the teams dispersed to strategize, Zix Snorp retreated to the observation deck, sensing that this simulation would be one for the record books. 5 minutes later, as the countdown hit 0 and the chamber transformed into a sprawling, futuristic cityscape, Zor leaned forward with eager anticipation. Let the games begin, he murmured, settling in to watch the action unfold. And action was exactly what the humans seemed born to create. From the start, their approach couldn't have been more different from the veterans. The seasoned operatives moved with polished precision, following well-practiced protocols and communicating in efficient, clipped tones. The humans, on the other hand, leapfrog maneuver, go. Johnson's voice rang out over the comms, followed by cheers as the human cadets took turns leapfrogging over each other to gain the momentum needed to scale a high wall. Meanwhile, the veterans were still carefully assessing how best to bypass it. Zix Snorp watched, equal parts amazed and confused, as the humans unleashed tactics that defied both logic and physics. They transformed everyday objects into impromptu weapons, weapons, used pop culture references as code, and created so much unpredictability that even the simulation's AI seemed to struggle to keep up. Did they just use a hover dumpster as a battering ram? One of the other instructors on the deck asked, his mandibles clicking in disbelief. Zix could only nod, his eye stalks fixed on the scene below. The humans had commandeered a futuristic garbage disposal unit, disabled its anti-gravity stabilizers, and were now smashing it through obstacles the veterans were still attempting to hack. As the simulation continued, it became evident that while the veterans had experience and formal training on their side, the humans' unpredictability and raw audacity gave them a unique edge. They're rewriting the rulebook in real time, Zix mused, watching as the humans combined parkour, improvised explosives, and even a well-timed dance routine to bewilder and outmaneuver a squad of holographic enemies. The veterans, to their credit, were adapting swiftly. Zix Snorp could see them beginning to incorporate some of the humans' unconventional tactics, resulting in strange yet effective combinations of structured protocols and wild improvisation. As the simulation entered its final phase, with both teams zeroing in on the VIP's location, Zix Snorp found himself leaning forward, if that's what a gelatinous being could do, in mounting anticipation. "This is it," he murmured, his eye stalks darting back and forth to keep both teams in view. The moment of truth. The veterans reached the VIP first, their command of protocol allowing them to secure the target quickly and begin their extraction. For a moment, it seemed that their experience would carry them to victory. But the humans had one last surprise in store. "Thunderbirds, go!" Johnson's voice crackled over the comms, and what followed left Zix Snorp, who thought he'd seen everything, completely astounded. In a feat of ingenuity that defied explanation, the cadets deployed cleaning drones, crafted a makeshift zip line out of their uniform jackets, and, with characteristic audacity, managed to pluck the VIP right out from under the veterans' noses, making a mad dash for the extraction point. What ensued was like a scene from a slapstick comedy, with both teams employing increasingly outrageous tactics to outmaneuver each other. The simulation AI struggled to keep pace, throwing in improbable obstacles that only seemed to inspire the humans to greater feats of creativity. The facility echoed with sounds of unexpected twists and laughter, and Zix Snorp could only watch in awe at the unpredictable brilliance unfolding before him.